I want to call that out. Now, I want to do something else. You know how it is. You got to call them all out. I want to call out those brothers and sisters who practice Orthodox Islam in the United States of America. Those that I see in my city of Philadelphia on Germantown Avenue. You know what I'm talking about. Tanuman knows what I'm talking about. We saw them. I want to call them out because they practice Islam without any consideration of the fact that the people they're imitating, and they're imitators, they're imitating the Arabs who are practicing racism against the black people of Sudan. I want to call them out. I haven't heard them say a word tonight. I haven't heard them say a word yesterday or the week before about the racism that is going on. Now, what's the difference between white racism and Arab racism? People talk about white racism. We've had a lot of discussion about white racism. But what about Arab racism? What about the attempt to destroy the culture of the people of Sudan? And what about the attempt to not only take away the land of the people, but to commit genocide on the masses of people of Sudan? And what about the continuing attacks on the people of Awil and Abyei and all the various places where you have had the destruction by the Sudanese army out of Khartoum against the indigenous people? Let me tell you something. We need to call out all of those people who in this country say that they're Muslims and they practice Islam. And yet at the same time, they have nothing to say about the injustice against the African people in Sudan. So that's one issue. That's one issue. So remember the two things. One, calling out Farrakhan to speak against the racism, the Arab racism against the African people in Africa, and especially in Sudan, and especially all the genocide against black people because they won't become Arabs. I want that's one. And then the other one is to call out those African Americans, mainly Sunni, who are out there practicing Islam without ever understanding where Islam came from or the practice of the Orthodox Islam against the African people in Sudan. Now, let me talk a little bit about the university and about education. That's my second point. My second point is this, that education is fundamental to the transformation of the people of Sudan. And I am so happy. I am so happy about this university. I am so excited about it because I was talking to Dr. Amma Mazama. She's a leader of the Afrocentricity International, the Parat of that organization, about this earlier today. And she regrets that she was not able to be here tonight to speak with you. But what she said was that it seemed to her that the building of an educational institution that is not based on the models that you find in Khartoum, but is based on the fundamental cultural values and understanding of the culture of the people in Bahr el-Ghazal. If we could find or look at, for example, what were the fundamental ideas about wisdom? What were the wisdom sayings, the proverbs of the people? What were the basic structures that people use for kinship and relationships? What are the common values that people have that allowed them to get along with their neighbors and with each other? These are fundamental things that have to be interrogated. You don't have to go to the Quran to do it. You don't have to go to the Bible to do it. You can just ask the elders. You can sit down and talk to the elders and say, look, how did we live in this society for 1,000 years before the Arabs came and before the Christians came. How do we get along? What happened? Since Africa is the origin of the human race, humanity starts in Africa, and since Africa is the home of the oldest civilizations along the Nile River, and since the civilizations of Nubia and the civilizations of Kemet came from up the river, which means it came from the south to the north, then the question that we have to ask is, what have we been thinking all these years? You know, I like to believe, as one of my friends, a South African scholar who's now gone, Mazizi Kunene, used to say to me, he said, Molefi, you have to realize that the people, like the people in what is now South Sudan, he said, they're old people. They have been here a long time. And I am sure he was talking about many of the people that we know and talk about in northern Baal Ghazal, the people, for example, who understood what civilization was and what it meant to be human and how to live as human beings. You heard the speaker say tonight, Andrew said earlier tonight, you've been so forgiving. Well, what he's amazed about, and this is correct, he is amazed about the fact that black people can accept so much brutality and at the same time turn around and love their enemies. That's deep. People don't do that. This is not what people do. This is not what, if this is what, now look, let me tell you something. Now let me tell you something. This is not what people do. If this were the case, then you would not have a doctrine that said an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. Can you imagine that, you know, you can have this kind of relationship in most parts of the world? No. Most parts of the world, you hit me, I'll hit you back. And in fact, not only will I hit you back, but I'll hit your brother, your sister, your mama, and your daddy. That's the way people feel. This is a whole, so what has happened here is that we are an old people. We understand a lot about human nature, and we are a forgiving people. And so part of why we were taken over, this is my analysis, part of why we were taken over so easily in the African continent was because, just like they did in West Africa, when the Portuguese came to Ghana, King Ansa, he said to the Portuguese, we greet you with open arms. We bear no weapons. Come and eat with us in our house. And you know what they wrote in their diaries? The same thing the Arabs wrote. The native people are like children. They don't even suspect that we're going to do them any harm. They just say, come and eat with us. Come and share with us. They took our hospitality for stupidity. They took our sense of love of other people and appreciation of other cultures and acceptance of other cultures. They took that as weakness. You see, that's the fundamental mistake. So part of what we have to do now is to reassess after hundreds of years, thousands of years of dealing with people. We know how people deal. And if they deal in the way of warfare and so on, then we need the stingers. We got to have the stingers, because the stingers will help us keep from allowing them to bomb our villages and our children from the air without having to pay for it. So this is what I wanted to say. We need the university. The university is important. What I would like to see, and I hope you will begin to do this, I want you to organize and organize and organize. Organize so that other people will be able to send supplies, send books, send donations, all kinds of donations to the university. But you have to have a credible organization, a credible group of people that will receive monies and receive books and will get those over to South Sudan. If you can do that, then I'm willing to work as hard as I possibly can to not only get my community behind you, but also to work with those who are trying to get that Sudan caucus so we can have the 42 members of the Congressional Black Caucus all on board. If we can't get them all on board, the majority of them, get them on board behind fighting for the rights of the indigenous people of Sudan, and particularly the people of South Sudan. I'm so sorry that's all I have to say, but I have to. I've been here, I've been on the road all day, but I love you and I appreciate you, and I'll come again and do it another time. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. That was a great speech. We love you too. Well, before the night ended, what he has been done, and very much for his vision to Africa and also to education for our people, so our people and our youth will be able to have a chance to go to school in Northern Barkazal State. So now I would love to present this to Molefi Asante. It's my honor to give you this to you. Your kindness, your leadership. Yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much to give this award to his special guest, Dr. Asante. It is a pleasure that we're going to be with you. We will need your help, and also we're going to be with you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We hope you fly back safely. God will help you to follow up what we need to help. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I thank Awil community in Syracuse, and thank you for your hospitality. The food is good, delicious, and this is always Awil community, even in Richmond. Every year, like 2 times, I go to Awil community in different occasions, and I like your food. My name is Khalid Girais. I'm from far north Nubia. And my African name is Tanut Amun. Ball guy, and all my friends call me by African name Tanut Amun. I want to congratulate you for this big institution, the University of Northern Bahr el Ghazal. This is a really big achievement, and this is very important, especially by the liberation of South Sudan from Arabization and Islamization. This is a time to bring our children, our kids, and give them time and opportunity to learn and to preserve their culture, their heritage, their language. My brother Bolgai Deng and Professor Molefi Asante is a good friend of us. We've been working with Professor Molefi since 2008, Richmond, Virginia, and Philadelphia, Temple University. There's one thing I just want to share with you, the importance of education. But it's not just a regular education like what we used to have in North Sudan, in Khartoum. Education in Northern Bahr el Ghazal University have to be centered in your culture, from the data culture, in each state in South Sudan, the education has to be centered in each people's culture, not from from outside. Why? For example, in northern Bahr el Ghazal University, you should work, and together we should work very hard to preserve and to teach Dinka language. Why? Because we cannot, as the people, we cannot produce our culture in a different language. For example, I cannot produce Nubian culture in Arabic language. To maintain Nubian culture, I have to learn my ancestors' language. This is only the way you preserve your culture. Arabs, they cheat us long time ago, as Professor Molefi says, and he wrote a lot of books. I read some of his books, not all, because he wrote like 74 books. He talks about the importance of the language. Language, ya Jama, is like when we're having a dinner tonight there, this good food, delicious food. We get a container, and then we put the combo and kisra and all kind of good food in a container. Container dayahu language. Container inta bukutu fogo akil da. This is a language, the container. Okay, what's in the container is food. Food is the culture. You cannot carry your